I have decided to make a dirndl. It's a traditional German and Austrian dress. I was digging in my mother's closet the other day and I found her dirndl that my grandparents had got her. Both of my grandparents came to this country in the 40s from Germany, from Mannheim and Speyer. So, anywho, I put on her dirndl and I fell right in love with it, and then quickly found out that my shoulders are way too big and that I will busticate the back seams right out of it. So that was super sad and disappointing, but now I want one. So I am going to make one and try to reverse engineer the dress. Anywho, so I want to try to reverse engineer the dress. It'd probably be easier if I got like a pattern, but you know, who has time for that, right? So I have the dress. I am going to try to look at it and figure out how to make one, which is kind of what I always do, I suppose. But anywho, so of course that made it that I had to go buy fabric, because any excuse to go to the fabric shop and look at fabric and touch the fabric and smell the fabric and do everything with the fabric is totally worth it in my eyes, to my husband's dismay. So anyway, I found some fabric that I bought that I had to have, that honestly probably won't work, but it was pretty and I needed it. So I have this as a contender. I don't think, isn't she beautiful? She's so pretty. I love it. It's just cotton. I bought all cotton. This one here is what they call, what is it, like a duck cotton? Or duck canvas? It's roses. It's really pretty and gray. And like, it totally doesn't work, but like the brown and the brown, like it's almost so clashy pattern-wise that it might work. But I don't know if I want to do it out of this or if I'm going to do it out of the blue. I found this and I absolutely love this. And plus, I just watched like the live action Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson, and the getup that she has on, even though, I don't know, what is it, like French inspired, I suppose, because Beauty and the Beast is in France. Anywho, she had like the blue dress, and I'm totally digging the Belle blue setup, because I mean, what little girl did not want to be Belle when you were little, or now, or have that library? I mean, yes. So those are my options, those are my choices. I have to kind of think about it. The only crappy part is this one here I got on the well, first off, because you know I live in Maine, I went to Madden's and they have buy the bolt, so it's whatever's left on the bolt, you get to buy it, but you get 20% off on it, so it's like totally worth it. So I only got like 2.5 yards of this, so I might just have to get like just a skirt out of this, because I gotta have a flowy skirt. So that's my dilemma. I do, however, have quite the collection of sheets that I have amassed, because every time I go thrifting I need to buy any type of sort of sheet that, you know, needs a new home and might need to go into a project. So I have some setups of sheets that are all in the blues. Surprisingly, I've been gravitating towards blues. So yeah, I think I've decided. I think I'm gonna go with this one. But then, what do I do with this? I just don't know what I do with this. I gotta do something with it. Otherwise, it'll just sit in the closet and I'll just save it for a rainy day and then I'll never use it. So we'll find out in another video what I'm gonna do with this. But she's lovely. You can sit there. All right, so off to it. Making a dirndl, y'all. Okay, here she is in all of her glory with the apron. And then I pinned the apron on here so we can see it. And there is the dress. So I thought this construction was really neat, is so it has all the buttons down here, but the dress actually slits down so you can get into it, and then it has a side flap. And then it comes up and it has an eye hook. So I do like that construction. I have done that before on a kirtle that I did when I first started making the dresses. So I think I might keep that. I'm not sure 100% yet, but it does have these seams right here, and one on that side. Already that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 cutout pieces, so 2 of the same and 2 of the same. And then if we turn her around on the back, it has them as well, which I believe they're called princess seams. Don't quote me on that. And then this one here is just pleated all the way around. And these look like knife pleats. Yeah, I think they're knife pleats. And then they meet in the middle and make a box pleat here, and then they go through. So this is what I'm going to try to make. Something along these lines. This is actually made of the canvas cotton, which I thought it was thinner, but it's actually thicker. And then on the sides, these look like they are possibly hand sewn. So quick side note here, you'll notice in the next part of the video here that the fabric is in fact completely different from the blue one I have decided on earlier. My husband took me to Martin's for my birthday, and I fabric binged really bad and got like a ton of different stuff. And the green star pattern that I'm making the dirndl out of is actually really close to the original one, which is a green one with like a checkered or diamond pattern on it. I can't 100% remember at this moment, but it's more close than the blue. I talk with my hands a lot, I'm sorry. It's more closer than the blue would have been. So I went ahead and I switched to using the green fabric, and now I want to make Belle's dress out of the blue because, you know, we need another dress. We need another project, and the fabric's too pretty to leave in the closet. Anyway, side note, on to doing the dirndl in now the green fabric, not the blue. What I'm doing right this second is I have the original dirndl of my mother's right here that I'm taking measurements off. The skirt is made up of 3 sections, which I find very fascinating. So I'm going to replicate this and change the top a little bit. Looks like the skirt's made out of 3 rectangle panels. Now when I make these, I make sure I have seam allowance. So this will be the front pieces, these are the back pieces. And I'm just going to cut a skirt that's 34 by 34. So that'll be easy. That's kind of what we're going for. It's not quite like the original, but it still has, the original has red and then the dark green with like little red flowers and little light green leaves. This here is a diamond pattern. Honestly, I need to wash this first. I'm really bad about washing my fabric first, but I'm not gonna do it. I don't put my dresses in the dryer most days anyway, so not overly worried about it shrinking. Just mildly worried about it shrinking. It's okay. Okay. Do, 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 34 by 34. I don't know where my tape is. And I'm too lazy to look for it. 22. So this is 44 wide. 44, 34. I need to take 10 inches off, so I'm just going to cut this at 34. I will worry about the other bit later. This at 34. That's not gonna work. Hold on, I need to get sewing chalk. Original Dirndl has the skirt being cut at 34 and 34. I decided to leave the extra 10 inches on, so the skirt panels are actually 34 by 44, as I like to have a very full skirt and have more of a flow to it. The original Dirndl, it's not a very big skirt. I'm going to cut the liner out of red. Now I know this is a risky move because red and green always makes you think of Christmas. But the reason why I want to do red is I have this border stuff trim that came from my great grandmother that she put on a dirndl for one of my aunts, I believe it was, and this is left over. And I really want to incorporate it into this design. This is kind of like a passion project. It's close to home for me. So I really want to put this in there. And as you can see, when I put it with the red, the green fabric with the stars, and then this, it doesn't match. It's not 100%, but you can see where the red matches, and then the shape of the stars, and then the pointy of the stars on the green fabric. It's almost so not matchy that it kind of is matchy. Now, if you do it without the red and I just put it on there, it doesn't match anymore. So I want to do the liner in red. I think by doing that, you'll have a little tiny, I want to do like a peak of the red out on some of these seams. And I think that will be just enough to tie in that when I put this on there, it won't be crazy confusing. This could be the best or the worst thing I've ever decided to do, because I do have an orangey color that matches this. But then it won't match this. So we'll see. We'll see how this works. I'm just trying on the fit. This is the liner to the bodice. I made the pattern for this by looking at the original Dirndl and just marking everything out. It does have some gapping up near the armpit, and where my shoulders are wider, I added more to the pattern in the back. So you can see that there's this big chunk of fabric in the back that I ended up having to take in because I added too much. So I'm glad that I had made the liner and was able to use this sort of as a mock-up before I went ahead and did the fashion fabric for the bodice. I think I ended up taking in the back at least a solid 4 inches, so I totally overestimated how much I needed. I'm just trying to figure out how much I needed to take in on the back panel of the fashion fabric after I got the liner figured out. Honestly, I should have pulled apart the liner and used that as like the mock-up pieces and developed a new pattern and fixed it all, but I didn't. I just went ahead and eyeballed it and folded the fabric over and then marked where I needed to pull the fabric in. It worked in this moment, but in retrospect, I probably should have, like I said, pulled everything apart and made a new pattern piece, for the mere fact that if I want to make this dress again in different fabric, which I probably will, I will need to go through this same process again of pulling in the back, you know, a few inches and doing this whole process over again. So I'm just sewing in the extra fabric here on the back panel, if I can find my scissors to disconnect it. I'm just using my serger here to cut off the excess and finish seam that middle piece. I don't want to have all that extra fabric in the back. And why does it always seem that your scissors like grow legs and walk off? I seem to always be losing the scissors. I did take some white fabric and just folded it over and sewed it, and I did put that between the red and the fashion green fabric to make this cool little border piece. I do, however, have to fix these corners as I folded it wrong when I sewed it together, so I do have to stitch rip these corners and poke the fabric out because I would like them to be a nice square. So in this shot here, I still haven't fixed them. I'm just testing out the fit, and I think it came out pretty good. Where my skirt is cut to have an extra 20 inches, it did cause the pleating to change, that I couldn't have the exact same pleating setup as the original dirndl. I went ahead and made some modifications and added an extra box pleat to take up some of the extra fabric in the back of the skirt. I was so into doing the dress and the construction and enjoying sewing and, you know, being in the moment that I did it all and then realized I had no footage when I went to do the editing, that there's no footage of me putting the banding on the bottom of the dress or any of the fancy trims on the bottom of the dress or putting the fancy trims on the bodice part or putting it all together. So the footage is going to jump from, you know, the beginnings, and then all of a sudden it jumps to the end. I can give you a little fill-in on what I've done between like here and there, and kind of explain a little bit about it, and then we'll go back to the footage of me actually working on the dress some more. So I have the banding to go around the whole bottom. Well, it's upside down. This way. I have the banding on the bottom of the dress, right here. It came out really nice. I'm not in love with it, but I'm not in love with it. So like it could go either way. Like I'm fine. So the banding goes right down to where the hem of the dress would be, and then I did this fancy little white, and then I did the red. So it actually looks really cute. It does have like some heft right here, so when I have it on, it you know, it like holds shape. So it must be a dress that I'm gonna have to wear a petticoat with, I believe. So we have options when it comes to buttons. I kind of like these brass ones, but then I have black leather ones, light brown leather ones, and then all of these random crown ones. I don't have a set, so it'd be eclectic if I did those ones, or just do like I have 4 of these ones to go. I could do 4 down on these, and then do like one crown one as like a statement piece. So we have button options here, all from Oma's button box and Grey Oma's button box. I decided on doing the brass buttons as they were close to being the same size, shape, although designless as the original Dirndl. I only had 4, so I only put 4. I really wish I could have done 5, but I have 4. That's what it is. I went ahead and sewed all of my buttons on. Neat tip and trick here is I actually knot my thread, so there's double of the thread, and then I hook it to my button first, as you saw the button was dangling there, and then I sew the button to the garment. You'll see here I'm doing the same trick as I have my thread knotted, then there's 2 strands of thread, and then I put it through my eye hook and then back through the thread, and then the thread is attached to the eye hook itself. I just seem to really like this method when it comes to sewing on eye hooks, snaps, and buttons, as you don't have to chase them around the garment as you're trying to put them on. They kind of stay in place a little bit better when you're first starting out. I put eye hooks behind each button, as this is how the dress is going to be fastened. Start with though, I have 1 eye hook behind every button, and I am sewing it literally behind the button, and you cannot see the threads of me sewing the eye hook to the garment. I am going through both layers of fabric here, but where I'm working behind the button and staying really close to those stitches, you can't even tell that there's something sewn on the back. The biggest thing you need to watch out for with sewing eye hooks, as I've already done once on this dress, is sewing them on backwards. So pay attention to which way you're sewing your eye hooks, kids. I also added 2 snaps at the very top where the buttons don't go all the way up. It had kind of like a flap gaptosis thing happening. I sewed 2 snap setups on the top, so I could either take it in and it fit a little better, or if I wanted it looser, I could let it out. So there is 4 snaps on here as well at the top. Now that all the buttons are done and all the eye hooks are in place, let's get to the reveal. So that's it for this video. I really love how this project turned out. I had a lot of fun making it. It really is one of my new favorite dresses, I think, and because it has a lot of stuff that came from my great-grandmother on it and my grandmother on it, this dress is very special to me already, even though I've only had it finished for like a couple days. I'm really glad that I went with the green fabric and not the blue fabric. It really does pay homage to the original dirndl that's my mother's that is in green, so I think that too like makes it even cooler. I'm really quite pleased with it. I did do the fold over in the front, which is kind of a strange construction to me. I've never really encountered something like that before. I did do a dress a while back of a version of it where I pleated it in and then connected it, so it's like all the pleats are open and then I pleated it in. This is really kind of neat where it has the slit, makes it easier for getting in and out of, and then you can still cinch it in, and there's no zippers or anything, which is really cool. I opted to do the faux buttons right here. I opted to do the faux buttons instead of doing actual buttons. One, I did not want to sew buttonholes. I'm just not at that point yet that I had the patience to sit down and sew the buttonholes. But also, I put eye hooks on the back side of this. So if I grow or shrink, or depending on, you know, if I want to put a sweater under this or whatnot, the eye hooks are movable. I can add as many or as little as I want in there to make the top like open or close even further. So I kind of did that. That is a stylistic choice that I chose. I could have put the buttons in there and just made like a one size fits all, but I'm all about practicality and reusability, and I like to be able to have clothes that can function depending on where my mood is and how many layers I want to wear because it's cold out. So with that being said, this is the end of this video making the dirndl, and if you like what I'm up to, go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button. And I appreciate you guys sticking around, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!